So today I want to talk about standardization and some of the things that we've been doing in the recent past. So we've been adopting a lot of new technologies and things like that. There's a story here that I want to tell about what we've done before, where we are now, and what the journey ahead of us is. Like I said, it's a story about change. And it starts here, where one day we were sailing in the monolith ocean. And then one of the sailors, whose name rhymes with man, kind of decided that we would be adopting microservices. And as we charted our way over the microservice ocean, we suddenly realized that there are a lot of unknowns there. There are dragons, there are unknown practices, and things we don't know. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to figure out which path we're going to take. There were like several possible paths, and we decided, do we use AWS's container engine? Do we use Docker Swarm? Or do we use this fancy thing called Kubernetes, which is named after some Greek thingamajig? And at the end of the day, we looked at it, and what we saw was that AWS would give us lock-in, we didn't want. Swarm just didn't have enough support going on behind it at the time. And so obviously, when we looked at everything, Kubernetes really felt like the right choice. And we decided, okay, let's sail ahead with Kubernetes. The thing is, once we made it to the queue island, we also realized that where to go from here to get to the other side is still kind of unknown. So we decided that we were going to kind of build our boats to go forward. And so several teams kind of split off. There was the reply team that started adopting Kubernetes. There was the publish and marketing team. There was the analyze. I'm so sorry I botched your logo, by the way. And then there were earlier parties like the scraper and the workers who went out really far ahead, which is why they're not in this picture. And each one of them kind of went off on separate journeys to try and see how they could build their boats the best way and how they could move forward the most effectively. And when they emerged out from the other sides, we saw some trends that had come along. Teams like marketing had adopted continuous integration and continuous deployment using technologies like Helm. And there were teams like the reply team whose Slack integration is honestly quite fabulous. You should check it out. If you can ever have a chance, you should just check out the channel. They have amazing Slack integration where you can check out statuses of deployments and which versions are deployed. Teams like Analyze conquered the beast with things like Learner and React Workspace. They were the first ones to actually adopt that technology, I think. And then there were things like Scraper and stuff, which still kind of chugged along with what they kind of left with, which was the earliest things. They were the pioneers after all, and they were still kind of chugging along quite happily with what they had adopted. People briefly crossed paths. We started exchanging ideas. The reply team came along and they moved off Google's platform, and they're now moving into AWS more and more fully. Analyze and Publish now both make use of Learner and React Workspaces, and there are still some boats that are chugging along with the same old things that they're left with. And that brings us to the present. To be fair, this is all a lot that happened. There's a long time that all this took. So we've all picked up some good things, we've exchanged a few good things, but at this point, there is some spring cleaning that is due. Some repos are running Node.js 8.1, which they started out with, and they never moved on from that. Some are running 8.9, some are still running 6.1, and still not fully making use of things like log files and builds that are reproducible. Some have dependencies that have not been updated for a while, even though there are security updates waiting to be integrated. And we also have things like work that might be repeated. So there are two teams right now that have built Slack integrations which look very similar. They work very similarly. And there's work that's kind of being done by two teams at the same time, which means there's work that's being reproduced. So here we are now, wondering how do we go forward. And I think this line, I was trying to find a way to really put this line forward, so thank you whoever put this line in yesterday's slide. Standardization equals sharing knowledge. It does not mean Yes?
I put it in the slide and I got it from a one-to-one when you said it. So yes, it is your line.
Oh, it is mine. Yes. So I'm glad because this is exactly how I felt about it. So I'm glad. I never thought of standardization as a thing where you hit a person on the head and say, this is how you do it. It's a thing of adopting knowledge and that you see fit. So this is kind of how I see it going. This is the conversation that I would envision. We sit down and someone says, here's how we are using X. So I would sit down with, say, the reply team and say, here's how we are using Helm. By the way, a lot of props go to Stephen for introducing that technology, which we then adopted. We brought in Helm, here's how we're using it. And then they might ask, so cool, but how do you deal with this challenge? Because again, these things don't have a one fit for all, and we had to be really careful. But then this is how we want the conversation to go on. Not, we're using X, you have to use X. That's not what we want. We want to ask these questions of how can we help, what can we learn from you, so that we can adopt that into others, what can we cross-pollinate, what can we adopt, right? These are the kinds of questions that we want to be asking as we standardize things. Again, I want to stress, it's not about saying you have to use this. That's not what this is about. We want to upgrade software. We want to say, okay, fine, here's a best practice. We upgraded from Node 8.1 to 8.9. Here's how we did it. And we ask people to help roll in these new technologies. Because the last thing we want to do is end up in a situation where we're still using Node 8.1 and we can't upgrade to 9. Whatever because we're scared we're going to break things, some years in the future. We don't want to be in that place again. There are other things, and this is the last bit, which is that there are things like AWS key rotations that we want to introduce. IAM roles, IAM permissions, how much permissions do we give to keys? These are all things that we want to know. We have enough knowledge, we have enough practice to start saying, okay, we can adopt some common ground amongst the team. We want to start pushing for these things to be adopted within reason. Local development. If someone else wants to work on the buffer reply product, right now it's a small contained team. But if someone else joins, how can they get up to speed very quickly? Can we help bring on some of the knowledge that we've gained in our other products? Can we help you all adopt some of that? Can we adopt the things that you all have done as well, because you're developing at insanely fast speed, which is really amazing. So deployment patterns, all of these things, we want to be asking these questions. These are the areas that we want to be standardizing now. And just kind of reiterate on that. We do it with the mentality of taking what we need. Someone might say that we're using this highly scalable practice of breaking up the DBs in certain ways, of breaking up the deployments into certain ways. And it's totally okay for another team to say, thanks, I'd love to know how to adopt it later if we need it, because that's a conversation that we want to be willing to have. Not forcing it on. The last point, standardization means moving forward together, but we don't want to stifle future growth and future innovation. So how do we do that? And the idea that the way it kind of looks is this mothership, or this motherboard, kind of riding out, and the tugboats, or the scouting vessels going out in the future and saying, hey, I have some info, and coming back and exchanging it. And each boat that goes out keeps coming back with more information. And we keep distributing it. So instead of kind of sending people out on these far-ranging missions and then finally coming back together 1 year later, it's something that we want to make more deliberate, to make it happen more often. Like every month we take a review, we see what have we learned, and we bring it all together. We review it, we share, we consolidate, rinse, repeat,